Have you ever got a ministry gut punch? You know, I was thinking the other day about the Good Samaritan, and as church leaders, what if you put yourself not in the position of the priest, but in the position of the man who was beat up and left for dead? Have you ever thought about that? Like, you are the one beat up on the side of the road, and then you look over and you're happy to see another pastor approaching, and he's not even on the other side of the road, but he's coming right at you. You're like, yes, he's going to help, only to find out that he gives another punch and he maybe pushes you off the road and he keeps on going. You know, the ministry gut punch is even worse when it comes from other people in the ministry, other church leaders, other pastors. And I've gotten a few gut punches myself, and it really normally goes back to when I put these two words together that you just don't put together in the church space. It's these two words. You ready? Church and marketing. That's kind of taboo, right? And when I was going to college at Evangel in the late 1990s, I was the only student on campus who was a biblical studies major and a marketing minor. And here was the response I got. What are you gonna do, sell Bibles? And you probably heard, hey, Jesus doesn't need your marketing plan. The church is not a business. And the list goes on and on and on. And I totally get that. But in this video, I wanted to give you guys the quick case for church marketing. Why would somebody be passionate about church marketing? And one thought is this. You know, when I was growing up, one of the earliest memories I have was as a little kid on a pew in a Pentecostal church, you know, with a crayon and some coloring books, just listening to the preacher. And as I grew up in that church, I remember hearing things like, hey, dream big. God's got a big plan for you. God's given you a unique gift that the kingdom needs. And then as we get older, we start to define those gifts. And there's a whole groups of us out there, whether we're storytellers or photographers or designers, video editors, directors, copywriters, and yes, even marketers, that God has given us this gift. And we've heard this growing up, that God wants you to use that gift for the kingdom. And then we come along and say, man, that's awesome. We can play a part in telling the good news, the gospel throughout the world, only to be told, hey, you know what? We don't need your gift. That really all you need to do is preach the gospel. When we come along and say, but we want to preach the gospel with video and art and branding and yes, marketing. So that's one aspect, is all along we've been told that, you know what? God has given you unique gifts. And I would just say, hey, why don't you empower those people that you've been preaching to use their gift, to actually allow them to use their God-given gift? And the second idea is this: your church is marketing whether you know it or not. If you've got a Yellow Pages ad, you got a sign out front, a Facebook page, a website, a logo, whatever you have, your church is marketing. And quite frankly, just many churches aren't that good at it. And so my encouragement to you would be, you're going to be marketing whether you know it or not. You might as well learn how to do it well. And thirdly is this, is that oftentimes we have the wrong definition of marketing. We think marketing is slimy tactics, marketing is manipulation. And yes, if that's your definition of marketing, then man, the church should have nothing to do with it. But my definition of marketing is a little bit different. It's this: marketing is simply tools to help start new relationships. Tools to help start new relationships. And this struggle is not new. It's something the church has wrestled with over time. I mean, you go back to the printing press, right? Some people saw the printing press as an answer to prayer. Man, we can put the Bible in the hands of so many people. While other people saw it as a threat. Well, who's gonna explain the Bible to those people? Then you jump forward to the airplane, right? And you're like, people look at the airplane like, man, we can send missionaries all around the world in a matter of days. How incredible is this tool to start new relationships? Where you probably have maybe heard and laughed about this, the old phrase of, well, if God really wanted us to fly, he would have given us wings, right? So you have two people looking at the same tool and coming away with a much different conclusion. You fast forward to television in the second half of the 1900s, probably the most influential tool that shaped culture as we know it today. You had some ministers look at television and said, man, that is a blessing. Instead of now taking days or months to spread the gospel, we can do it in a matter of minutes. You had other people looking at television and saying, man, that is from the pit of hell. Now, I understand both perspectives, but I typically lean towards, man, if there is a tool that can be used to share the gospel, then let's do it. You fast forward now to the internet, websites, social media, mobile technology, text messaging, whatever it is, you can look at them in one or two of those ways. My encouragement to church leaders is, what if we looked at these tools not as something to be feared, but as ways we can start new relationships, ways that we can actually reach people with the gospel. This doesn't have to be an either or type mentality. This can be a both and. We can hold fast to the Bible, we can center our thoughts on Jesus, and we can use tools to start new relationships. It doesn't have to be either or. You can have a passionate, fired up, gospel-centered, Jesus-centered approach that also uses marketing tools. You know, we help about 25,000 churches with our resources, and we'll send out emails, and sometimes I'll get a reply with this subject line that says, "How do you sleep at night?" And that could be one of two ways. One way is that ministry gut punch, where somebody will be, "Ryan, how can you sleep at night? How can you tell people that we need to be using marketing tools? Jesus doesn't need your marketing plan." And then what's funny is the next day I'll get the same subject line, "How can you sleep at night?" But the email is totally different. It comes from a pastor or church leader that says, "Hey Ryan, I listened to one of your videos, or I checked out one of your resources. We maybe ran that Facebook ad, or we tried that email idea, and we had 3 new families come that week, and this week we baptized them and all their kids. I don't know how you sleep at night." When if you know that these resources that can help churches reach people, you must be so fired up and so passionate. And to me, that's just a summation. There's 2 different ways to look at it, and I choose to look at it with that exciting approach is, how do you sleep at night? When we have more tools at our disposal than we've ever had in the history of mankind to share the gospel. So when you say, hey, go into all the world, I pray that that means go into YouTube, go into Facebook, go into internet, go into whatever it is, go into that world as well, where there's billions upon billions of people, and preach the gospel there. So if you're a photographer, a designer, a brander, and yes, a marketer, my challenge to you would be continue to preach the gospel. Continue to keep on working and celebrate the gift that God has given to you. Now, this is a first part in a 3-part series that we're going to be doing on church marketing. The second part, you may be saying, well, Ryan, I'm right there with you. I'm church marketing, I love it, but what actually works when it comes to church marketing? And we've assessed over 2,000 churches, and we came up with 7 things that the data told us that growing churches are doing in the area of marketing that plateaued or declining churches aren't doing. And so in the second video, we're gonna go through what are those 7 things that actually make a big difference. So if you've ever asked yourself, what actually works when it comes to outreach, evangelism, marketing, tools to reach into your community, we've got 7 things that actually statistically make a huge difference, and we're gonna be talking about that in video 2 of 3. And if you leave a comment below, or you can click below and sign up to get notified when that video goes live, you can check that video out. God bless, and we'll see you in the next episode.